Most people think focus disappears because of distractions. That was my assumption too. So I did what everyone recommends. I deleted social media, turned off notifications, cleaned my desk, bought a notebook, even set my phone to grayscale. I expected clarity to arrive the moment the noise disappeared. Instead, something stranger happened. The quieter my environment became, the louder my mind seemed to get. 30 days into the experiment, I realized I had misunderstood the problem from the very beginning. Focus wasn't being stolen from me, it was being rejected by something inside me, and once I saw why, I couldn't unsee it. The first week felt encouraging. My screen time dropped, my desk looked like something from a productivity blog. I had long uninterrupted blocks of time waiting to be used. On paper, I had removed almost every obvious obstacle, yet every morning I sat down to work, my attention drifted somewhere else. Halfway through writing a sentence, I suddenly wanted to reorganize my folders. During a study session, I remembered emails I didn't need to send. While reading a book, I became fascinated by whether my keyboard needed cleaning. None of these distractions came from outside. My own mind kept inventing new ones. That was confusing because I had always believed distraction was something that happened to me, not something I created. Psychologists sometimes describe attention as a competition between immediate rewards and long-term goals, but living through it felt less like a competition and more like watching my brain negotiate with itself. Every meaningful task seemed to come with an invisible entrance fee. The first few minutes were uncomfortable. They felt slow, uncertain, mentally expensive. My brain offered an alternative every single time, not because the alternatives mattered, but because they felt easier. Checking the weather required almost no effort. Rearranging icons on my desktop produced an instant feeling of completion. Real work offered uncertainty. Fake work offered relief. That explained something I had noticed years earlier without understanding it. On days when I was genuinely excited about a project, focus arrived almost effortlessly. On days filled with doubt, even opening the document felt difficult. The difference wasn't discipline, it was resistance. I had been treating focus like a resource I needed to increase, when in reality the bigger problem was the friction standing between me and meaningful work. Around day 10, I stopped measuring how long I stayed focused. Instead, I started paying attention to the exact moment I wanted to escape. It was surprisingly consistent. It happened whenever I reached uncertainty, the sentence I wasn't sure how to finish, the chapter I didn't immediately understand, the problem without an obvious solution. My urge to leave wasn't random. It appeared precisely when my brain could no longer predict success. That changed everything. There's an idea in neuroscience that the brain constantly tries to minimize uncertainty because uncertainty demands energy. Predictable actions are efficient, unpredictable ones are expensive. Suddenly, my endless distractions made sense. My brain wasn't searching for entertainment, it was searching for certainty. Every tiny distraction was simply a shortcut back to something familiar. Think about opening your phone for just a second. Before you even unlock it, your brain already knows exactly what will happen. You'll scroll, you'll recognize faces, you'll receive tiny pieces of information that require almost no effort to process. Compare that with writing an essay, learning a difficult skill, or building a business. Those activities provide no immediate guarantee of success. Your brain must tolerate ambiguity for much longer. One path feels predictable, the other feels mentally risky. That realization completely changed the experiment. Instead of asking, how do I eliminate distractions? I started asking, why does my brain want certainty right now? The answer was rarely laziness. Most of the time, it was discomfort disguised as distraction. The distraction wasn't the cause, it was the symptom. The next change looked almost insignificant. Whenever I noticed the urge to switch tasks, I didn't force myself to keep working harder. I simply waited. 30 seconds, sometimes a minute. I watched the impulse without obeying it. Something fascinating happened. The urge behaved almost like an itch. It felt overwhelming at first, then slowly faded if I didn't react. I realized I had spent years believing every impulse demanded action. Most of them disappeared on their own if given enough time. This reminded me of something endurance athletes often describe. The hardest part of a race isn't always physical exhaustion. It's the moment your brain starts negotiating with you. Slow down, stop here, you deserve a break. Those thoughts often arrive before the body reaches its actual limit. Attention works in a similar way. Your brain offers escape long before you're incapable of continuing. By the third week, another surprise appeared. My focus didn't improve because I became mentally stronger. It improved because I stopped making every decision feel important. Before starting work, I already knew what the first action would be. Open the file, write one sentence, read one paragraph. The smaller the beginning, the less uncertainty my brain had to process. I wasn't tricking myself. I was reducing the cost of starting. That's when I noticed something unexpected about highly focused people. They often look incredibly disciplined from the outside, but many of them have simply designed environments where fewer decisions are required. A novelist sits at the same desk every morning. A pianist begins with the same warm-up. A runner ties the same shoes before dawn. These rituals aren't magical. They reduce uncertainty. They tell the brain, we've done this before. You already know how this begins. Near the end of the 30 days, I experienced something I had been chasing the entire time. Hours passed without constantly checking the clock. Ideas connected naturally. Work became strangely enjoyable. It wasn't because I had finally conquered distraction forever. Those impulses still appeared. The difference was that I no longer mistook them for commands. They became background noise instead of instructions. Looking back, I realized my biggest mistake had been believing focus was something to manufacture. Like motivation, I assumed it had to be created through effort, but attention behaves differently. It's often revealed when resistance becomes smaller than curiosity. That's why children can spend hours building imaginary worlds without anyone teaching them productivity. Curiosity carries them across uncertainty before fear has a chance to interrupt. The strange irony is that modern life trains us to escape uncertainty as quickly as possible. Search engines answer questions instantly. Notifications interrupt boredom before it grows. Entertainment fills every empty moment. We become accustomed to immediate clarity and then wonder why meaningful work feels unusually difficult. But meaningful work has always required sitting inside uncertainty long enough for understanding to emerge. After 30 days, I didn't become someone with perfect focus. I still catch myself reaching for distractions. I still feel resistance when starting difficult projects. The experiment didn't remove those feelings. It changed my relationship with them. Instead of asking why I couldn't focus, I began asking what discomfort I was trying to avoid. That single question exposed patterns I had missed for years. In the end, the biggest discovery had almost nothing to do with productivity. Focus isn't the absence of distraction. It's the willingness to remain present when certainty disappears. The moment your mind stops knowing exactly what comes next is usually the exact moment real learning, creativity, and progress begin. Maybe the goal was never to silence the noise completely. Maybe the goal was to stop mistaking every whisper of discomfort for a reason to walk away. Because once you understand that your attention isn't running from work, but from uncertainty, the entire challenge changes. You stop fighting your mind and start guiding it through the very place where growth has always been waiting.